Hi, my name's Jenny Krebs. I'm a Ph.D. student at UC Davis, and I study trees.
When I was a kid, one of my best friends, other than my dog Trip, was the magnolia tree in the backyard. I used to climb to the top of the tree to observe the birds, squirrels, and lichens. While perched in the canopy, I often wondered what it would be like to actually be the magnolia tree, always rooted in one place, faithfully watching over the yard and the whole neighborhood. Although I didn't realize it at the time, these tree climbing adventures were my first introduction to the idea of a tree as a witness to environmental conditions. This is a key concept in dendrochronology, the study of tree rings. Essentially, trees create annual rings that vary depending on climate conditions like precipitation and temperature. Each ring is kind of like a tree's annual report. The magnolia tree in my parents' backyard has been a faithful sentinel for over 60 years, but the oldest living trees, the bristlecone pines, can live over 5,000 years, and other species like coast redwoods and giant sequoias can live over 2,000 years. That's a lot of arboreal records.
So how do we read these stories? Well, first we use an increment bore, which is essentially a very sharp but hollow drill bit. This allows us to bore into the tree.
Look how close we got to the pit.
If we hit the center of the tree perfectly, this core represents the full life history of the tree. We then use paper straws to protect the core on the journey to other plots and eventually back to the lab. Once the cores are dry, we glue them to wooden mounts and clamp them, and once that glue is dry, we gradually cut the core with the woodworking plane to reveal the rings. Often polishing with progressively finer sandpaper makes the core even smoother and easier to read. We expect this record of rings to vary depending on the climate conditions a tree experienced that year. For example, wet years tend to produce wide rings, while dry years can be very narrow. During extreme drought, trees may even skip a year. In addition, tree rings contain resin ducts, which are small canals that carry sap throughout the tree. Sap can help combat pathogens and pests, including mountain pine beetle. Like an arboreal medical record, the number, size, density, and type of resin ducts formed each year since the tree sprouted can provide clues about an individual tree's health and the health of the forest surrounding it. Anthropogenic climate change affects all trees, from beloved backyard trees to those growing in remote wilderness areas that are in theory protected from human influence. I think it's important for people to understand that the actions we take today, from commuting to consuming, will influence today's seedlings for centuries or even millennia to come.